So now we have our working component and we're assuming it's accessible. We added the ARIA attributes we were supposed to based off the documentation. We made sure the color contrast met the contrast ratio. We made sure there's hovers for here. Everything's looking good, right? Based on what we know. But I think the next step we want to do is actually test it out. I know it's common in progressive enhancement to be like, okay, we've added our fallbacks. We know it works without JS if it needs to. Let's do some browser testing. So I haven't done that. I normally would do this, but we only have so much time. But what we can do is do some basic accessibility testing. And before we do any of that, I kind of want to just make a statement that this does not replace actual user testing with people who have disabilities. You want to keep in mind that we're making sites for our users, including those who have disabilities, and we really want to make sure our components on our websites work for what they want, what they need, and what works best for them. But if you don't have the resources like me to do any user testing, the next best thing is to follow the documentation and do a little bit of some accessibility testing on your own. So that's what we're going to do today. All right, so we've got our accordion. And I'm not going to use my trackpad at all. I'm going to just be using my keys. So I'll kind of explain what keys I'm using as I go, since you can't see my keyboard. I'm going to start by clicking over here. See, I'm clicking around there. I'm going to use the tab key to tab through the component. All right, so this is what we would expect. We want anything that has a focus state, such as a button or a link, to get that focus style, the custom one that we added. So we can tab through. Awesome, it tabs through all of our buttons. And then to tab backwards to test the elements we just went through, you can do Shift and Tab at the same time. So that's what I'm doing. Shift, Tab. Then I'm going to hit Enter. You can also hit the spacebar to expand this component or this accordion section. All right, I'm going to hit Enter again. I'm going to hit the spacebar. Cool, it works for both of those. We see the arrow turning. We see the styles changing like they should. And then we want to see, okay, can we actually interact with the content inside this accordion section? So I'm going to use the Tab button. Perfect. We want all of these links to have their hover state and their focus state. We want to be able to tab to them and tab backwards. And then we want to, let's just close this accordion section. So we tabbed backwards to the button, hit Enter to collapse it. Go to the next one, Enter again, tab through all the sections. Let's tab again to get to this button, expand it. There's no links here, so it's not actually going to tab us into the content, but we don't need that. We see the content. We just want to be able to toggle this here when there's no links inside. So that's your basic keyboard testing. Now, and if you are building another kind of component, you will want to go to the documentation. So for example, let's look at this disclosure example versus this accordion example. So here they've got this keyboard support section, which I really love. That's what I was looking at before building this component. So I expected to be able to tab through and then hit space or enter to expand that content. And this is for the multi-select accordion. For the single select accordion, where you can only have one section open, there's a few more keyboard functionality expectations. So you've still got your space or enter, your tab, but there's also down arrow and up arrow and home and end. So you'll just want to kind of check some of the documentation before building out your component to verify if you do need any extra functionality such as arrow keys or home and end. But that's our keyboard testing. So now we can move on to, I'm going to do this. We can just really quickly test and see if we zoom into 200%, does the content resize with our browser zooming in? Because we want to be able to have this content zoom in for users who have low vision, and if they need to be able to see this a little bit better. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to hit this plus arrow for zooming it up all the way to 200. So that's good. This is what we want to see. We want to see that the font size increased, this font size increased with it along with the arrow, and it all stayed within the page. All right, so now we're going to test with VoiceOver. I'm going to give a brief description of the expected behavior before I start testing, so you kind of get a sense of what's going on, and I definitely can't speak over VoiceOver. So we will turn on VoiceOver, then we will use Control, Option, plus right arrow key combo to navigate through the content. So that's basically that's just telling VoiceOver to go to the next thing on the page. Control, Option, right arrow. Then once we get to a button, we will use Control Option Spacebar to open that, to like press the button and open the content. The nice thing about VoiceOver is if you're not sure how to interact with an element, such as a form element or a link or a button, it will tell you what to do. So it'll read the content. For example, it'll say, like, what resources did you use to build this? And then it'll say, you are on a button, and do this to expand the button or interact with the button. So that's really nice, very user-friendly. But I'm just going to go ahead and start testing this thing.
VoiceOver, QuickTime Player, Screen Selector, Window, Screen Selector, Window. You are currently on a window. Safari, Code Pane, Accessible Multi-Select Accordion, Window, Code Pane, Accessible Multi-Select Accordion, Web Content has keyboard focus. You are currently on Web Content. To enter the web in Code Pane, Accessible Multi-Select Accordion, Web Content, heading level 1, Accessible Multi-Select Accordion, in heading level 1, Accessible Multi-Select Accordion. Description list 3 items. You are currently on a description list inside of Web Content. What resources did you use to build this? Collapsed button 1 of 3. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option Space. What resources did you use to build this? Expanded button. List 4 items level 2 of 4. You are currently in a list. Bullet, link, bullet, link, disclosure, FAQ, example. Bullet, link, bullet, visit, link, end of list. What are the HTML tags and ARIA attributes used? Collapsed button 3 of 4. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control Option Space. What are the HTML tags and ARIA attributes used? What are the HTML tags and ARIA attributes used? Collapsed button. What is the expected behavior of this component? Collapsed button 4 of 4. You are currently on a button. To click this button, what is the expected behavior of this component? Expanded button. List 4 items level 2 5 or 5. Bullet. Use bullet. When using the keyboard at the NVDA screen reader, users can hit enter or space to toggle the content for the focused accordion button. 2 of 4. VoiceOver off.
All right, so that's testing with VoiceOver. Pretty simple. I don't know if you can notice, but I tried not to look at the text output that's right here, just because I want to be able to hear what VoiceOver is saying without being able to see the design and the style and everything. Because people who have low vision or who are blind, they don't see that this is a collapsible button. Usually, they can't see that there's content that this will open up. So I don't want that to influence what I'm hearing with VoiceOver. But basically, there you have it. You have a custom component using JavaScript and styles and our attributes that is accessible. We've tested it. It's accessible as far as we know. Again, I would love to reiterate that user testing is so important, and if you can do that, that is a really great thing you can do. But what's really nice is we don't have to go back and make it accessible. We don't have to spend extra time that's probably outside of our budget or scope to make this accessible. We built it from the ground up so that any user can use this accordion and get access to this content. Thank you so much for walking through this with me, and I've got some more information in the article if you want to take a look at that.